I will. I've talked in a microphone a few times before. Okay. So after that story, my mind now is just racing with, oh my gosh. So I'm doing online dating right now. Yeah. Oh, that's really not what my story is about, but I just have to say this publicly. Holy shit. Who wants to be 40 and single? No one. No one ever. There's like a million stories that I could just tell from both of those and just say yes. I don't know. Never mind. We're just not going to go there today. I'm just going to go back to the story I was going to tell. So people are telling really what they did for a living, and I'm not going to do that because it's not really that interesting. But I lived in Asia for 5 years and had a lot of interesting experiences being a blonde Scandinavian North Dakotan with big boobs living in Asia. So this was about 10 years ago. So I looked like I was 18 and was 30. And so I lived in my city. I lived in a small Chinese city of 7 million people. Yeah, I know. I grew up in western North Dakota in a town of 1,800 and went to UND and then lived other places and then decided wildly let's go to Asia, woo! And so my ex-husband, and no, this is not an ex-husband story because I got a shitload of those too, and my children, who at the time were 2 and 4, took everything and moved to Asia. And I used to walk around with my kids all the time before I could speak Chinese, and people would just stare at you all day long. Because there was no other Caucasians in the city really where I lived that were ever visible, rarely, and never any children. So it was... And then it was always this, because they were looking at my kids, except if I was alone. Right? So I used to have to ride the elevator. And, Chinese men in their little sweet suits would walk in the elevator, and I'd be in there, and they'd be like this. Salivating, and it was just awkward. Try to look at the ceiling, look at the floor. Eventually, after taking Chinese class for a while, I learned how to understand Chinese. That was a big mistake. So then I would ride the bus too, public transportation, trying to be, economical, saving taxi money. And I'd be on the bus, standing on the bus. If any of you ever ridden in the big city on the bus, standing on the bus. 20 minutes standing on the bus, changing position, standing on the bus, waiting for someone to move so you could sit down on the bus. And then, every single time, they'd be like this behind you on the bus. And the bus would move and they'd go, and you'd go, But it was always the crowded bus because it's like rush hour in China every single fucking second of the day. So they'd be going, and then someone brightly would talk in Chinese and someone would boldly decide that they're going to stand face to face with you on the bus. And when the bus turned, they'd fall against you, just, whatever. So then I went through a period where I would take motorcycle taxis. Very fun. So I am a very good motorcycle rider now. I do get compliments about that when I go on my Match.com dates. You know how to ride a motorcycle. Fuck, I do. I can ride one sitting side saddle with a mini skirt. I should add that to my profile. Along with it does say on there that I've eaten a tarantula. So I think I'm known on Match.com as the woman who ate a tarantula. Because that's the messages I get half the time are, you really ate a tarantula? No, I fucking didn't. I just put it on there to be stupid, dumbass. Yep, I did. Yep, ate a tarantula. Were you sober? Yep, I did. And it's not good. And it doesn't taste like chicken. So when I would ride on the motorcycle taxis, in the beginning I was a little nervous because they would ride really fast, because they really don't care if you die or not. It doesn't matter. They just want their money at the end. But then I realized there was kind of this stop and go game that they would play a lot of times. If any of you drive the motorcycle and want the woman on the back to hit your back, so that you can feel her boobs smashing against you when you drive, this was everyday experience for me. Especially when I didn't know how to ride, because I was scared and I would hang onto them really tight and then, the entire time I was riding on there. And then I got better eventually, and I would sit way back here and not touch them at all, not even close, nothing of my body touching them, and I think they were always a little disappointed, to be honest. But after I got to speak Chinese, then I could hear them talking about me in the elevator all the time. And I just learned very quickly to say, "Hey, how are you? I'm a foreign teacher here." And they'd say, "You can speak Chinese?" "Yep." So that's how I learned how to avoid the Chinese male problem, looking at that. Have a good night.